Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. Today we are making sliders, and I know what you're probably thinking. Just go to the store and get a package of those tropical rolls, we'll just say. But we're going to be making these from scratch, of course. Now, can you skip the first process of making the rolls? Obviously you can, but I would encourage you to give this a try. These are called honey rolls, and I've done videos on these before. They are my go-to when I need any sort of fluffy, sweet roll. Now you can reduce the sweetness by just reducing the honey in this, but let me tell you, the texture of these, the ease of the dough, of working with it, it's just phenomenal. When you add your first amount of flour in there, that's all the flour you're gonna need. You're not gonna need any to roll these out on. You're not gonna need any to put on your countertop when you pour the dough out. This is an oily dough, and when I say oily, I mean flavorful. So this is fun to work with. Anybody that's ever tried this comes back and reports to me, that is the easiest stuff to work with. I thought it was just you making it look easy, but it really is easy to work with. So go with us as we make sliders, but we're gonna make our rolls from scratch, and let's get this going. All right, our milk has heated up. I put this on the stove just on a low burner, and we have 1 cup of milk in this little saucepan. That's why I showed earlier the inside of the saucepan. I just wanted you to see there are measurements inside, so I'm not just willy-nilly kind of guessing at it. Although you probably could. It's really not that easy to mess up. So anyway, I just wanted you to see that I was measuring 1 cup in there. To that, we're gonna add 2½ teaspoons of dry yeast. And I'm going to go ahead and add our 2 tablespoons of honey to this. Now this, I do kind of measure willy-nilly. Now the milk alone, heated like that just to a warm temperature, and when I say warm, I mean like bath water warm, not scalding hot. You can't have it over 120 or it's going to kill your yeast, but even cold milk will eventually activate the honey, or not the honey, but the yeast, because it does have some sugars in there, but we're adding the honey, and that's really going to get it going. Looks like I'm pouring a lot in this, but really it's just coming out super slow. So the yeast is going to kind of wake up because of the warm milk. That's going to help speed it up. Plus the sugar of the honey, that's going to get it going. And if you don't trust your honey to be good or fresh or active, go ahead and let it sit in here and start bubbling up. You'll be able to tell when it's active because it's not going to look like a dry powder anymore. It's going to start having bubbles in it. All right, to this we are going to add 1/2 cup of, this is just organic extra virgin olive oil. You can also use butter in this. It'll need to be softened butter, but butter adds a great flavor to it. Since you're trying to make healthier choices, I would avoid going with a seed oil or something inferior that you wouldn't even add to anything else, so don't add it to these. Don't ruin them. These are such good rolls. You want people to enjoy these. Now I will tell you a little secret to these rolls. It's actually kind of not a secret anymore, but if you serve these straight out of the oven warm and take honey and drizzle over the top, it tastes just like a glazed donut. I know y'all think I'm crazy when I say that, but I'm not kidding. We've had guests over here and their eyes got so huge when they tried it. And I kept saying, these are gonna taste like a glazed donut. And they're like, yeah, right. You're the one who cooks healthy. And yet they were pleasantly surprised. That's exactly what it tasted like. All right, to this, I'm also gonna add just 1 egg. The milk combined with the egg in this recipe gives the dough such a richness, and yet they stay so soft And you can even refrigerate these if you ever have leftovers. And to reheat them, it's just like you just baked them in the oven. Not even kidding. You can tell I'm a huge fan of these, and I've been making them for a long time, so the longer I make them, the more I become a fan. Okay, 3½ cups of organic flour. This is just plain flour. Add our dough hook to our mixer. I'm going to turn this around just a bit so you're not just looking at the back of the mixer. Lock it in. We're going to run this for 5 minutes just to get the dough mixed up, then we're going to let it rest. I'll be right back. Apparently we're not done. I didn't add the salt. Maybe I had to cough so bad I just forgot about the salt. We're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt. This, as good as these are, they don't taste good without salt, I can promise you that. So 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Now we'll mix it up. All right, I'm going to just get the dough off the hook and back down into the bowl. But this is a resting period. This is a necessary step. If you're anything like me, you would use this dough enough to where you'll want to write it down on some kind of cardstock or something, put it on the inside of your cabinets and keep it at hand where you can just open the cabinet door, look at the recipe as you're making it, and you'll have people ask for it. Just let them take a picture of it with their phone when they come over. That's how we do it at my house. If we're eating dinner and we have guests over and someone says, oh, I love the recipe of that, I'm like, let's go. Of course, right now, if it's something on YouTube, I just say, go to my channel and look for this particular recipe. But if it's something that hasn't been published yet, then I just either open up the cabinet door or get out the particular book that it's in or the card that it's on, tell them take a picture of it. No writing down, no nothing. Just have it on their phone. They can always write it down when they get home. But the nice thing about it is, if your phone is, I don't really know how new it has to be, but I know on my phone, if I take a picture of something and it has the title of it in there, all I have to do is remember the words. So I go to my photos and I hit my little search icon and enter in that word, and it'll pull up everything that contains that word, including documents or signs or anything like that, which is a really neat feature for somebody like me who has tons of pictures on my phone. And I don't use that word lightly, but that's how I find things. All right, we're gonna let this rest a few minutes. I will say, go ahead and get if you have one of these plastic shower caps, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I have a big box of these, but you get these at a hotel or wherever, just disposable shower caps. We're gonna cover this bowl once we get it all mixed up after a while. So we're gonna finish this resting period, just about a 5-minute resting period. Then we're going to turn the mixer back on. We're going to let it mix for another 40 minutes. I know that sounds like a long time, but it really does need that to build up the gluten and make this the softest dough possible. It's really fabulous. But after that period, we'll turn the mixer off, unplug it, take our dough hook off, clean it all up, and then put the shower cap on and let it sit for an hour to rest. So, going to finish this little resting period, then when we turn it back on, it'll go for 40 minutes. All right, we're ready to turn it back on. Again, another 40 minutes. It doesn't necessarily have to be on super high speed, but not so low that it's just barely moving the dough. But again, 40 minutes. All right, our mixer has been going for close to 40 minutes. So we're turning this off. unplug it. Seems like when my mixer's on, it jiggles everything loose that could possibly get loose. This little knob right there in the front goes loose. I have to check everything, but my mixer's kind of old. Okay, if you've ever dealt with dough that's so sticky you can't hardly touch it unless you flour your hands, it sticks to your hands and you just can't seem to get it off, and it's not cohesive, and it just smears and strings and makes a mess. This is not that dough. This dough is fabulous. This is so fun to work with. This is the base for our course dinner rolls. Sometimes hamburger buns, sometimes hot dog buns, sometimes sandwich buns. This is the base for cinnamon rolls, chocolate rolls, apple rolls, any kind of fruit you can put in there. My favorite, of course, being the chocolate. Well, I say that unless I make apple rolls, then I swear it's apple rolls are my favorite. But we can link the videos for the apple rolls and the chocolate rolls and the cinnamon rolls all in this video too. So you can refer to those, because once you make this dough and it turns out right, and you're going to be shocked how easy it is to turn out right, then you're going to go, you know what? I think I can make something else with that. And you're right, you can. I have all the confidence in the world in you, because after all, I just made it right here in front of you. It is not hard. I used to be so intimidated by yeast bread when I was first married and first learning how to cook, and I thought, ding dangity, I can do everything except make yeast bread. Well, it's because I never tried. And even though they had instructions, they weren't comprehensive instructions. They would just say warm water or warm milk, but don't have it too hot or you'll kill your yeast. And I'm thinking, oh lands, now I've already killed something. So I was so intimidated by the instructions, but it's because they weren't explaining them to me in my language. I needed to know what this dough was supposed to feel like. And I'm going to tell you what this feels like, and I've said this before. This feels like soft baby skin. That is exactly what it feels like, soft baby skin, not wet. You don't see this sticking to my hands. This is such a perfect dough. It's incredible. But if they would have explained that to me in my language, I'd have probably been making yeast dough for a long, long time. Okay, gonna cover this up. I have to run some errands, and it's gonna take me about an hour, and that's about how long this needs to sit and rise. And that's called the first rising. That was also my mistake when I was scared of making yeast dough, is I was trying to be so gentle with it that I didn't want to deflate it. I wanted it to just get big and puffy. Well, that doesn't make good dough. And I'm sure the instructions didn't tell me to be gentle with it, but my fear was I would deflate it. That's the whole purpose. In part of the instructions is you have to knead it and get that gluten built up to where it makes a really good structure in the bread. So anyway, all right, we're gonna let this rest for an hour. We'll be back in just a bit. I have to go run some errands in the meantime, but we'll be back and we will shape our rolls because we're making sliders. So we'll see you in a bit. All right, I've run my errands. I'm back, obviously, and this has been in there for about an hour. So we are gonna take this out. I could take my rings off. My handy dandy plastic flexible bench scraper. I love this silly thing. All right, this is how easy this dough comes out. Very little left in the bowl. And that's what it looks like when we're done. All right, this is our dough, and again, it does not stick to the countertop. Very few little scraggly pieces might stick, but it is not very sticky at all. So we're going to put our slider rolls in this stainless steel pan. This is not aluminum, this is stainless steel, but we don't need any oil in it, no nothing in the pan. So we want 12 rolls out of this, so we're going to divide this big ball of dough in half. Try to get it as evenly as you can, evenly divided as you can. And each one of these, we're going to make 6 rolls. So we'll cut this one in half. We'll cut that one in half. And then each one of these we're going to cut into thirds, which is a little bit more difficult than cutting it in half because, you know, it's an odd number. It's just harder. So if you need to make 16 to put in that, you go right ahead. 16 would be fine. That way they're all even, but I've done this enough where I kind of get them evenly portioned out in thirds, so that's about 3 equal portions. Sometimes if I get a little more on one, I'll steal it from that one, stick on the small one. All right, so with these rolls, there's a couple of different ways you can do this at least. I used to do it like this. I'll try to show you as best I can. With the palm of your hand, hold that dough in there and bring up the sides, turning it around as you go, and just pinching it together at the base. And eventually, it's going to look like this on the bottom, and then it's going to look like that on the top. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to put it down on the counter and using your hand like a cup. You're going to just go around in a circle like this, and somehow that's going to pull those edges down, kind of the same way we were doing it just a minute ago in a different fashion. Same result, 2 different ways. So this is what it looks like on the top. That's what it looks like on the bottom. Kind of looks like a belly button. We're just going to place those in there. Now I found that I can do this a little faster. Makes my hands a little less tired when I do it like this. I've done hundreds of rolls the other way, and I'm telling you what, I felt like my hands were going to cramp up and not recover for a while. But I got over it. Sometimes I smooth it out on the top and then start this process. All right, so basically I'm just going to do 12 of these, and then we're going to let the rolls rest. We're going to cover them up. We're going to let them rise. That's the second rising. Now, when I was still intimidated by yeast dough, this is the part that kind of wigged me out because I wanted to be real gentle and just kind of fold it over and not collapse any of the little bubbles inside. That's just the opposite of what you need to do to get good dough. You need to take that dough and get rough with it, and basically you're pushing all the bubbles out because you want that yeast to stay active and you want it to keep moving and produce more bubbles. That's what makes good, soft bread. If you get any rolls, once you put them in the pan, if you see that some rolls are larger than the others, try to place those in the corners particularly, or at least on the outside perimeter, because those rolls tend to cook a little bit faster and get a little bit darker than the center ones, just because they're closer to that edge of the pan. I'm going to look back on this video in a few days probably when my husband's editing it and going, oh, can you believe I had 2 shirts on? Because it's supposed to be a high of 50 something today. Now, tomorrow we're going to be up in the 70s. So this is just one of those days during the springtime where you better check the weather when you get out of bed, and hopefully it tells you the truth. because it's going from hot to cold every day. We just don't know what to expect around here, but it keeps it exciting. And it is pretty cool out there. I ran my errands and I was glad I had on 2 shirts. Okay, here's our pan of rolls. And I might need to rearrange these. I'll have to look and make sure I have all the larger ones toward the edge. That's a smaller one. I'll move it over there. All right. Now, even though these rolls are not touching, they're going to be touching by the end of this because they're going to rise and they're going to all snuggle up together, and this is going to be a full pan of rolls. So what I'm going to do right now, I don't know, I can't remember if this fits. No, I don't think this fits over the top of that. But I'm going to put these in my lower oven and just turn the light on down there. That way it gives it just enough warmth to where these can rise beautifully. You don't want a draft to take over them and help them fall in any way. But we're going to let these rise for an hour, and then we'll come back and we'll bake them off. But we'll come back an hour and I'll show you what they look like. Okay, lights on, they're going to rest. Okay, it has been almost an hour that our dough has been rising, and I want to show you what the rolls look like in the pan. That means our oven's preheated. Okay, this is what they look like. Not touching on all sides of all the rolls, but you can see how much fluffier they are than when they went in. They were much smaller. All right, we're going to put these in. And I'm going to set our timer for about 20 minutes. Normally they bake between 20 and 25. It really just depends on a lot of factors, I guess. But I can check it at 20 and see if it needs more time. And if it does, I can always add more, but I can't take the time off once they've already been in the oven. So we'll set it for 20 minutes and see how that goes. I have some pecans to toast for something else I'm making. It doesn't have anything to do with the sliders. And I'll put that in right before these rolls are done so I can use that oven time without having to turn it on again. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, rolls are done. And my pecans are smelling good too. All right, I'm gonna give you a look at these. This is what our rolls look like. But we're not done. We're still going to make sliders out of these. So we're going to put these aside and just let them cool at room temperature. This should take probably, I don't know, maybe a couple or 3 hours. So when we come back, I will show you what we're going to put in these. These are a little bit different than your average slider. And then the sauce to go on the top. And we will not use processed sugar. So I look forward to showing that to you. So we'll be back in just a bit. All right, we're ready to do the next step. Our rolls have been cooling for several hours now, and they are perfect. They're just perfect. All right, what we want to do first of all, though, is we want to get our sauce that goes on top of the sliders heated up a little bit, just so we can brush it on later. So the ingredients go something like this. I have 3 tablespoons of butter in this little stainless saucepan here. I need 2 teaspoons of coconut sugar. I love coconut sugar, and here's why. It tastes like sugar, but lower glycemic index, and it's not processed. So you've got non-refined, non-processed sugar, but it tastes just like the bad stuff, if you want to call it the bad stuff. I realize that some people are like, I like sugar and I'll eat it forever. That's okay. I don't like the way I feel when I eat sugar. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit or a lot. I love the taste of it. I can never say I just don't like sugar. I love the taste of sugar, but it does not make me feel good. But coconut sugar does not seem to have that effect on me. I don't know why. There's got to be something scientific to it because just the way it works. Okay, so 2 teaspoons of coconut sugar in with the butter. I'm going with my dry ingredients first just because if I do the wet ingredients first, then my dry ingredients will stick to my measuring spoon. Next we want to, let's see, I think we'll sprinkle the poppy seeds on top. We need 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. This is just Lee & Perrins. I think they make an organic Worcestershire sauce, but I haven't seen it in a long time. I think I could order it from Azure back years ago, so I'm guessing they still have it. It's probably made somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, and that's why it was readily available through them, but I've not seen it here. Okay, 2 teaspoons of that. I also need 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. And this is the kind I have. You just kind of eyeball the Dijon. It's not really you don't level it off or anything. You just kind of go with what you think is a teaspoon in there. All right, I'm pretty sure that's 2 teaspoons. I also need a teaspoon of, you can use molasses if you want. I'm going to go with date syrup. And date syrup is probably the closest thing I can find to the taste and consistency of molasses. And I love me some molasses. I could stick my finger in it and just lick my finger. And that's what my husband's grandmother used to do. We'd go visit her, and no matter what she was making, if she put molasses on it, she would accidentally drip some down the side of the jar and have to clean it up with her finger, and then she would lick her finger, and she was so cute doing that. And my husband just would almost gag because he doesn't like the taste of molasses, and neither does my daughter. But I love it. And apparently, according to a friend of mine, that is the one that got me started on all the healthy eating and information regarding that, she said it has to do with the amount of iron that your body has, and if there's a low iron level. Zoe, good lands. She starts scratching that pillow over there, and it sounds like a sawmill going off. But anyway, it's kind of like one of those things. If some people really like the taste of cilantro, some people think it tastes like soap, some people really like molasses, some people think it tastes like soap. There's a few things like that, and I can't help but think that Barbara may be right when she says that it has to do with the amount of iron you have in your body. So anyway, it's something, I know that. All right, so we're going to put this on the stove just on a low burner, let it heat up a little bit. Get my spatula ready for that. And we're going to start assembling our sliders. Now here's what our rolls look like. And that's how easily they come out of the pan. So what we're going to do is slice these so they'll all be kind of even. And this is just a serrated edge knife. It makes cutting a little bit easier. It doesn't tear the bread and it doesn't smash it. And these rolls are so soft, it's kind of amazing that they slice this easily, but it probably has more to do with the knife. All right, so I'm going to take the top of it off. We're going to put the bottom back in the pan, and we're going to start layering our ingredients on there. First thing we're going to put on is a raspberry jam. Now, this actually has sugar in it. When I pulled it out a while ago, I was like, I just told him there was no processed sugar in this. Stop saying that. This actually has organic sugar in it, but it is reduced sugar jam. But it's actually called fruit spread because it doesn't have the required amount of sugar as a jelly or a jam. But we don't put just an immense amount on there, so hopefully this will be fine. So I'm going to take this jam And I'm hoping you can see this. Yeah, I think you can see that, what I'm doing. I've done a video before about my favorite sandwich, and it's turkey and Swiss and raspberry jam. So basically this replicates that, but it has the sauce that we pour on the top for the sliders and the homemade rolls too. So a little bit different, but same contents as far as the sandwiches goes. I've also eaten this with, let's see, blackberry pomegranate jam, and that is fabulous too. I took it to, we had our small group Bible study on Sunday night one time, and it's the first time I'd ever made sliders. I'd seen people talk about, or heard people talk about sliders and seen pictures of them, but I just thought, it looks like meat and cheese. I don't really know what the big deal is. So then I figured out, well, it's the sauce on the top. That's what makes it. And so then I found some that were turkey and Swiss, and it said use your favorite fruit jam. And I thought, well, let's see what we have in the pantry or the fridge. And the first thing I saw was that blackberry pomegranate jam, and let me tell you, that was fabulous. It was like candy in a jar. And I didn't come home with any sliders that I remember. I think they were all eaten there that night. And everybody always brings a large amount of food when we get together to eat. So it's not like, oh, well, they were gone because people were starving. No, there was plenty of food there. They didn't have to eat just my stuff. Everybody there's a good cook, so it's not like mine was the only thing edible. But they certainly were delicious with that jam on there. All right. Set that aside. Better get my little plastic lid here that acts like a trivet, just so I don't get it all on the counter. All right, next thing we want to do is put our, I think we'll put our Swiss cheese on there next. And the nice thing about this is that you can just put it on there the way it fits, and you don't have to worry about one slice per roll or per sandwich. It's just going to fit in the pan. And then once they're heated, you can slice in between the rolls, and it slices the turkey and the cheese, and everything comes out great. And Zoe hears me pulling cheese out of the package, so she's down there making noises because she thinks she needs cheese. Okay, these overlap just a tad, but not a lot. Okay. And then we have turkey. This is just uncured turkey breast. It's applewood smoked turkey breast. Now you don't necessarily have to lay this flat. You can kind of wrinkle it up and have more on there, which is what I'm going to do. Can y'all hear my dog moaning over there? She just knows there's something up here that she should be getting a bite of, which is not the case. I'm not giving this to you. I feel like I need to know the secret handshake to get this turkey undone. It's kind of in there like a trick. You have to know the code to get it unwound or something. Okay, so this used probably close to 8 ounces of sliced turkey. All right, we're going to put our lid back on there. Now right now, it's about 3:39. We have friends coming over, and they'll probably come over at about 5:30 or so to eat with us. So what I'll do is I'll pour this sauce on here, sprinkle it with the poppy seeds. I'm going to cover it in parchment, of course, and then put a heavy sheet of foil on it. I'll stick it in the fridge, and then when it comes time to heat it up, all I have to do is just remember about 30 minutes before it's going to be served that I need to pop it in the oven. And we're going to bake this later on with the parchment and the foil on it at 375. We're going to bake it for 20 minutes. Then we'll take the foil off and bake it for another 10 minutes, and they will be ready to serve. Did I just splash that out on my finger? Ugh. And on the countertop. Y'all know I don't like a mess. Ugh. All right, let me get our brush to brush that on with. Need to mash that down real good. Okay, you can see that this is nice and stirred up. I'm hoping you can tell what that looks like. There you go. Kind of looks like brown gravy brushing across the top of it. If you've never had sliders and you look at the recipe and go, sugar on top of a sandwich, that just doesn't sound very good. I'm with you. I thought the exact same thing. Why would you ruin a perfectly good turkey sandwich with sugary stuff on the top of it? But it's magic sauce, people. And if you take this to a gathering, somebody's going to ask who made those, and you're going to wind up giving the recipe out. So just go ahead and write it down, or just keep my video on hand and just go, this friend of mine showed me how to do it on YouTube, and just shoot them the video. Okay, so that's done. And we're just going to sprinkle some poppy seeds on the top. There. Just like that. Now, let's see if I have parchment down here. I do. I'm forever using parchment, and then I say, you know what, it's not that dirty, doesn't have food on it, I'll use it again. So here we go. Plus it lays there nicely, unlike parchment you first take out of the container that's brand new. It just rolls up and just is very much a misbehaving piece of equipment. All right, we have this sealed around there. So again, I'm going to put this in the fridge. Our guests won't be here till about 5:30. So we're going to preheat the oven to 375. 20 minutes with the foil and the parchment on. Then we're going to take it off and bake it for another 10 minutes. And then it'll be ready to serve. The next time you see this, I'll be ready to serve it. So there may be some chaos going on in here, but that's okay. The party's fixing to start, and our 2.5-year-old Maddie's going to be here, so it's always a fun time when she hits the house. So anyway, hope you try this, and if I don't tell you this later, thanks for watching. check out the recipe, check out the other recipes. Maybe we link to this for the cinnamon rolls, chocolate rolls, apple rolls, things like that. We hope you find something that's beneficial to you that you can use to help you invite friends over, enjoy that fellowship together, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon, but you'll see these when they're baked next time. Thanks, guys.